Welcome back to Emotional Eating. I know that this has been a lot of information. When I started recording this, I didn't really plan to go into, some of the things I talked about with even the history of how we eat. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is we are all emotional eaters. And the idea of this series was not only for me learning and digging deeper for me personally, I always am, and you are too. That's why you're here. And again, come with an open heart and mind if you would. Okay? That's all I ask is just come to everything I do with an open heart and mind and go, okay, is there one little nugget in here that might forever change the way that I look at things? Me learning about personal and self development, and me learning decades ago that you don't just stop pushing yourself because you are a certain age, or you're a certain weight, or you made a certain amount of money, or you had the perfect marriage, or whatever. You always are pushing yourself. And in the Help Me Get It Together series, so much of this comes down to why I named well, because I don't, it's not enough for me. But that's why the scale to me is such a small part of all of it, because I see the emotional side of who we are, I see the spiritual side of who we are, I see the physical side of who we are. And I think the emotional side is, for many of us, is so, I don't know, we're probably not realistic, okay? At the end of the day, we're probably not realistic because we have one view of it. But we are very dynamic people. We are not linear. I've said this many times. We're body, mind, and spirit, body, soul, and spirit, body, spirit, and mind. There's a thousand different ways to describe it, but there's we're not just linear. We have this essence of who we are, and then we have the body that we carry everything around. And then we have our mind that operates all of that. And so, in all of those things, that's the best way I can describe it, I guess. And in all of that, there is that sense of there's more in the whole universe, more God, whatever your beliefs are. But it comes down to we aren't just, we can't just attack this whole thing from a diet. And we can't attack it from, I've been doing these things all these years, all these habits, all these traumas, all this PTSD, all of these undiagnosed things. I mean, just face it, when we were a kid back in the 60s, 50s, 60s, and some of you 70s, everything wasn't diagnosed. It didn't have a title. Now, there's good and bad to that. I'm a nurse. I think some of it might be overkill. But at the same time, for a lot of us, it makes a lot of sense in our life. Like, oh, well, no wonder I have a problem with impulse control. Okay? We're going to talk about that. No wonder I have a problem with, turning to food for comfort. Because if you've been around here any length of time, and it's the very essence of what we've been talking about in emotional eating, everybody is an emotional eater. And at the end of the day, it started somewhere from something and became a habit. And it is a horrific habit to try to break. And you do if you aren't careful, you can turn that habit and backfire into all other kinds of issues, from under eating to binge eating, those kind of things. I've touched on a little bit of that. I'm not a therapist or a counselor, or any of that. I've just studied enough of this stuff to know that in talking to many of you guys, it would be considered a binge if you feel bad the next day. If you ate so much your belly hurt that the next day it took you a day to recover, okay? I know what I'm talking about. And that is emotional eating. That and eat and I guess trying to describe it, if you're at a shower and you're at a baby shower and you're not hungry, okay, or you and your husband go out to eat, and that's and you go, oh honey, I will have some of that dessert, okay. We're talking about not a person who ate three desserts already. We're talking about a person that was cognizant of what they ate, tends to eat mostly healthy most of the time, and you weren't hungry, but then you said yes, I'll have that. Well, what would be wrong with that? I mean, that's an example of an emotional eat. That what's wrong with that? Okay, there's nothing wrong with any of it, only if you have guilt after. One of the cardinal things that it's an emotional eat of some kind that is detrimental to you. Okay, again, having a piece of cake at the baby shower, you don't think twice about it. Of course, you have the cake at the baby shower. That's it. But you didn't have four pieces, or you didn't go back for seconds, or you didn't guilt yourself over it, and even if you did have a whole piece or four pieces, did you guilt yourself over it? And so that's a really deciding factor, that whole guilt and shame around food. And I might sprinkle that more throughout this course, but there's a lot that goes into people that have an emotional eating problem to the point that it affects their life. Yeah. So whether it affects your emotional health or your physical health or your spiritual health, who you are in spirit, you, the essence of you. Because what happens if you do it, then you feel guilty, but the urge gets so big you almost can't overcome it, or you don't overcome it, and then you try to overcome it, and then you end up overdoing it. I understand the cycle because not only have I lived it, I've talked to many people through it, and I've studied it. More important than that, I've studied this cycle. And can I just say to you all that just like in the Transform course or VIP course, I 58 days can't fix you 56 days. I don't think that's possible when it's decades. Some of you guys, I meet you, or we meet, wherever we meet online, and I say, "Oh, you're an easy fix now." You're an easy fix. And if I haven't told you that, I'm going to tell you right now. A lot of you guys that only have 30, 40, 50 pounds to lose, that have kept your weight, you've never been like morbidly obese, right? BMIs of 35 and 40. Some of you guys, you just need to fine tune what you're doing and get serious about adopting a healthier lifestyle so you can get there. And if you would do just some basic core things, I do think, in my experience in coaching, and with me being a morbidly obese person for decades, I do believe that that is a longer term type thing, and maybe even outside help of anything I could provide. I want you guys to know, again, this is my journey. And thank God he gave me like this passion for curiosity and learning and wellness. I've been in healthcare since I was 14 years old as a candy striper. That's 42 years. So, it's so important to me that this is about our overall wellness, and that we remember that yes, it's emotional eating, and yes, all eating a lot of times is emotional, happy, sad. But when it's detrimental to you, when there's guilt and shame around it, when you cannot make a decision in the morning and stick to it, that's when you need those intensive courses. Okay, I want you to know that if you make a decision in the morning and you planned and you were going to track, and I'm not talking about it perfect, okay? I'm talking about if day after day after day you're not holding yourself accountable, you're doing more damage than you are good. You are not that you're not making progress, but again, if that's accompanied with the guilt and shame, I fail again, I fail again, I fail again, we really need to take hold of it for you so that we help you. And it is more complex than me just saying practice self-discipline. Go over there and find the audios on self-discipline, right? Because this is chemical, it is genetic, it is habitual, it is physiological, it is psychological, it is emotional, it is environmental. there's about 8 areas, gosh, and they're growing every day the more I learn, that all this goes to, whether you're 100 pounds, 150 pounds overweight, or you're 15 pounds overweight. And as you guys know, I've always been 15 pounds overweight. I don't care. I care about my overall health, my waist size being under 35 inches. I care about my BMI staying as close to 25, 26, 27 as I can get it. That's what I care about. That's, to me, for me, that's where I'm the happiest and the healthiest, okay? So that's where I like to be. And some of you guys have been a long time since you've even been close to that, but that doesn't mean I don't get above that and I don't try to, for myself, that same mindset. And I guess that's the point before I move on today, that I wanted to kind of catch you guys and just say this, is that the bottom line is, this is a journey. This is going to continue to be part of your life, of your learning, and you're learning how to undo the damage done, whether it was not knowing, whether it was the habitual. And you don't think I don't do that even till today? I do that even today. Everything that I'm talking about, it's not like, oh, well, I didn't do that for 5 years. I'm not talking about that. I'm not that person. I'm very authentic with you all, and I understand the struggle of turning it all off. I understand the struggle of never enough time for yourself, for self-care. I understand the marriage struggle, the financial struggle, the kids struggle. Oh, God. Addictive behavior struggle, the drinking too much struggle. That's never really been one of mine, but I do understand overindulgence struggle. And maybe it's not something that you can think of past the food and the weight to go, well, do I have those struggles in other areas too? Or is it just the food? And I think that our goal for this year in 2023 is to just pull all areas of our life together so we see that we can be so happy, 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 happy every single day, regardless of our circumstances, regardless of the scale. But when it comes to weight loss and health and longevity, you need to have that proper range of BMI, right? Like, I mean, it is the sign of longevity, as much as making sure you don't have too much mental stress, making sure that you're well balanced in all the areas of your life. And I can't stress enough at how all of those things are tied to choices, emotional eating, the trauma, the PTSD, the habitual behavior, having food in the house, not understanding how to keep minimizing what you bring in. I can tell you I minimize it. I keep minimizing it. I keep minimizing it. I keep minimizing the protein things I bring in. I keep minimizing any kind of snack I bring in, any kind of other cooking ingredients that I bring in. My pantries are very minimal now. My refrigerator overflows. And even then, I don't want to eat the blueberries if I don't need them. I don't want to eat blackberries just because I can and I'm feeling snacky in the afternoon. I don't know how you all want to eat, but I'm going to spend the next couple of minutes talking to you about that. So pull yourself back from any emotion now and just see this as a clinical person or as a mature, smart person that's wanting to learn.